My god, trying to eat treats before I've even sat down. Here, you can eat that. You gonna eat it there? Okay. Alright, my dog is here because this video is about her. So, quick disclaimer, if you don't feel comfortable hearing about sick animals or seeing like photos and videos of animals that are unwell, this video may not be for you. So definitely give this one a miss if you're not wanting to hear about that or see anything about it. So late last year, around like December, actually it was December, my dog was admitted into the animal referral hospital, and she has now made my ottoman all wet, thank you. My dog was admitted into the animal referral hospital and stayed there for around 10 days. So on the 22nd of December at around 11:30 in the morning, I had just gotten out of bed. My mother was making herself breakfast and Zoe had been acting a little bit strange. She was very off colour, she was very pale, she was just laying in our hallway, and so Mum said to me, she was like, get up, we're taking the dog to the vet. We take her down to our local vet. Thankfully he was open. He closed at 12 because this was on a Saturday, so yike. He closed at 12 and this was at 11:30, so I quickly rang him and I was like, look, something's up with Zoe, we're on our way, like help us. My white balance is really bad, I need to fix that real quick. Thankfully our local vet is very kind, he's very lovely, and he was willing to do that for us. He actually at the end of it stayed open an entire hour past his closing time to help us with Zoe, which was fantastic, and I am forever in debt to that. So we take her down there and he tries to run some blood tests on her. She's always very like, I don't know, she's a jittery little baby and she doesn't like anything going near her. She doesn't like needles, she doesn't like scissors, she doesn't like anything, like for haircuts and stuff. Don't worry, I'm not attacking my dog with scissors. She doesn't like any of that. So to get a blood test from her, he was trying very hard. He had to actually sedate her. And that was the scariest thing I've ever witnessed, was my dog going under sedation. She lost control of herself, like she was just laying on the floor and she started whimpering and it was terrifying, and I never want to see that ever again, ever, from any of my animals. It was horrid. The hilarious part of that was I did get to make a how would a dog wear pants joke because she needed to have a nappy put around her, and that was my favourite part, was getting to make a how would a dog wear pants, would it be like this or this joke, because of how we had to wrap her up. So he takes her blood, the blood is very thin, it had a bit of trouble coagulating, like it was very thin and watery for ages, and it wasn't until we left that one of the vials managed to actually thicken a little. He couldn't get a lot of blood either, so that was a bit troubling. We thought, oh, she's just a bit dehydrated, it might just be the colitis that she gets sometimes that's made her feel a bit ill. She'll be fine. He gave her a steroid shot. We were like, cool, cool, fabulous, we'll go home. Done. Not done. So she was very like sleepy and lethargic and still quite pale. He noted that her gums were really pale, and we just thought, oh, it's just like, we'll just give her some like steak, she'll be fine. And I know, looking back, that we probably should have been a little more concerned than we were, but we weren't. And we didn't know. And we didn't know about the conditions she has. And that's a reason I'm making this, is because it's a condition that people need to know more about and they need to know the signs. So yeah, we know that her gums were quite pale and she was very sleepy when we brought her home. And we thought, oh, it's just because it's been a big day for her. Like, I know when I've taken the rats to go and see the vet, they'll sleep for ages because it's a big trip. Like, they get really tired. And she'd been poked and prodded. He had to shave like parts of her neck and parts of her legs to try and get the bloods. So we thought she's just a bit tired from that. Cut to 3 in the morning. We are now on to the 23rd of September, I believe. It is 3 in the morning. I am woken up by my mother with her saying, Zoe's just thrown up. We are taking her to the animal referral hospital. Here's the kicker. You stay here and sleep. We'll come back and tell you what happens. I was like, no. I was up. I was changed. I was in that car. I was going with them to drop this dog off. There was no way that I was going to just stay home and go back to sleep whilst you're taking my dog to the hospital after telling me she's just thrown up. We get there, as I said, it was 3 in the morning. We were very concerned. They rush her straight in. Like, the receptionist, he looks at her and he goes, I'm taking her to the vet right now. So that was scary. She was very, like, lifeless, just like a little rag doll on the way over there. So it was very, 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 very scary. And we thought she might stay there for like a day or two because whatever was wrong with her, it was obviously something huge. We thought she'd only be there for a couple of days. Fast forward 10 days, like, my god. Yeah, Mum and I go out to say goodbye to her. She's got a little bandage on her leg. It was pink with paw prints, and she seemed really up by that point. Like, she seemed very like, hi, I love you, and it was just really good to put her into safe hands. I owe a lot to the Animal Referral Hospital. My entire family does, and they're absolutely amazing. We then cut to the next day. It is the 24th of December. Mind you, I had to go to work that day, like on the 23rd, and I rocked up and I said to my manager, I'm like, dude, my dog's just been admitted into hospital. I'm running on barely any sleep. Like, take it easy on me, man. But yeah, I also have to go to a family event later that day, so I was quite tired. I was just like, let me just rest, please. I don't want to do anything. We get to the 24th. She's still in the hospital. We managed to go and visit her though, and they tell us she has been diagnosed with immune-mediated hemolytic anemia. Now, there's 2 types of it. There's the secondary type and the primary type. The secondary type is wherein it is being caused by like a poisoning, so by eating a bait, or by getting like a bee sting, or I don't know if it could come from ticks, but those types of things, where it's being caused by something else, by the dog either ingesting something they shouldn't have, or being like injected with something they shouldn't have, because like a bee sting injects whatever. The primary type is where the body just spontaneously kind of does it. That is the type that Zoe has. She has the primary type, and that to me took a lot off our shoulders. We were like stressing ourselves over, like, was it a mosquito bite? Did she eat something that the rats had dropped? Like, what was it? What could she have done? We watch everything she does. She doesn't go outside. My dog does go outside, but I mean, we don't let her outside unsupervised. But we watch everything this dog does, so we were so worried. And when they said it's the primary stage, her body's just kind of done it, to me that took a lot. It took a lot off us, and it was a bit of a relief. It didn't make the progress any easier in terms of worrying about her recovery. It did take a lot of the like guilt, I suppose, away, because it wasn't anything we had done. In addition to that, there's another like split type of it where you can have the regenerative or the non-regenerative. So basically what the IMHA does is it's the body thinks that the red blood cells are foreign, they're a disease, and it kills them off. So she was anemic, judging by the name. She was quite anemic. They were giving us her blood count. I'm still not sure if it was like a percentage or what. I believe it was a percentage. The like normal range for dogs, I believe, is anywhere from 37 to like 52 or something like that. She was 11 on like one of the nights she was there. She required a total of, I believe it was 4 blood transfusions. They had to put her on immunosuppressive drugs in order to stop her body attacking the red blood cells. Now, as I was saying, there's the regenerative and the non-regenerative. So the regenerative is wherein the body can produce the red blood cells. It's just that it also at the same time thinks there's something wrong with them and that they're foreign. So it can produce the red blood cells. The non-regenerative is the scarier one, wherein like the body struggles to do that, I believe it is. If you couldn't tell by me not knowing about the non-regenerative, my dog has the regenerative type, which was another relief, because it meant that her body had no trouble producing these blood cells. It just had trouble keeping them there. So when they gave her one of the transfusions, I believe the first one, she went from 11 to around like the mid-20s. And then within the next few hours, her body had killed off a lot of those immature cells and brought it right back down to 12. So that was what we were dealing with, was her body would kill off these blood cells. She'd get a transfusion, she'd be a lot brighter, have more color in her for a while, and then within a few hours, her body would be like, yeah, you thought, and destroy them all again. This continued for a little while until the immunosuppressive drugs really kicked in. So what they had her on for immunosuppressives was cyclosporin and prednisolone. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong.
prednisolone.
Yeah, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. So they had her with it going through an IV, which she had attached to one of her legs. It changed every so often. She kind of hated it. Like, she absolutely hated it. It bugged her so much. She was walking around like her leg just could not work. We visited her nearly every single day she was in there. I think we didn't visit her the first day, I believe. So we didn't visit her on the 23rd, and we didn't visit her Christmas Day, but we visited her every other day she was in there. Yes, they had her on prednisolone, I can't pronounce that one, and cyclosporin. They then had to put her on an anticoagulant drug because the most common cause of death, other than like not having the finances with this disease, is from blood clots, which can then travel to the brain. So I had to put her on an anticoagulant, which she's still taking. They also had her on, I believe, that's right, she ended up getting a case of colitis while she was in there. I think it was just from stress, really. She was away from us for a few days, as I said, and I think there was like a change in her diet, and she's very sensitive. She's had that, like a few flare-ups of that in the past. When we bought her from the pet store, she actually had colitis. So she got that while she was in there. So she was then on an antibiotic and a nausea tablet. She was on one other tablet, I swear. So I can't remember what the other one was anymore, but she was on 6 medications when we brought her home. She's just on the 3 for now. So the 2 immunosuppressants and the coagulant. She's finished the antibiotics. She's finished the nausea tablet. The other one I think was just like an antihistamine or like an anti-inflammatory. They had to do those types of things because when they would give her the blood transfusion, it was important to not have her react negatively to it because she needed that. She was anemic and she needed that in order to survive. And as I said, like, she's obviously okay. She's home. She refuses to associate with me right now because it's very hot here. I say as I'm wearing a cardigan because I have my air conditioner on. But yeah, it is very hot. She doesn't want cuddles from anyone. It took her a while to kind of get back to normal. She's still not at normal yet. We're not out of the woods yet either. She is no longer anemic, which is a big plus, but the battle is not over. She's still on her immunosuppressants. We haven't lowered those yet. Her vet says that that's up to the lab results, whether like the lab feels that we can lower her immunosuppressants or not. And that'll be her big challenge. Thankfully, she's young and we caught it before it got to a really dire stage, as far as I believe, because she was able to bounce back. We took her to the vets right away once we saw it happen. So it is, apparently, from what I've read, it's one of the most common immune diseases in dogs, yet no one really knows about it. I've mentioned it to my friends, I've mentioned it to my co-workers, and none of them had heard of it. They're all like, you know what now? And I think it's important I put this video out there, one, to raise awareness for IMHA, and also because when you search IMHA on YouTube, you get a lot of videos with very sad stories. Stories where the dogs are not okay, stories where the dogs are older breeds and it was caught at a later stage and this happened or they couldn't afford it. We thankfully are in a position where we have been able to afford her vet bills. They're still ongoing. She's no longer getting weekly checkups, she's now getting fortnightly checkups. When she was first discharged, it was like every 2 days. Then it became every week, and now it's every 2 weeks because her results are getting better and better. A big thing they've been testing her for is her percentage of immature red blood cells. So of her like 37% of blood cells, how many of those are new and how many of those were like pre-existing? When she was first admitted, that immature percentage was at 35. The ideal for dogs is 2%. 17, pretty much nearly 18 times, I should have just done that, 18 times what it should have been. She's now at 2.4. She's doing so well and I am so proud of her and we love her so much. She has a bit of trouble jumping because her immunosuppressants have like a little bit of like weakness as a side effect. So we had to buy her puppy steps, which she doesn't always go down, but she'll definitely go up them. Sometimes she'll just jump down off the lounge or whatever she was on, like my ottoman before. Or if she's not bothered to go up the steps, she'll just kind of sit in front of whatever she wants to be lifted on and just bark at it. An important thing to note is the side effects of the immunosuppressants, as they are a steroid at heart, essentially. She's had increased thirst, she's had increased hunger, that's been really noticeable the past few days. And to begin with, there was like increased like going to the toilet and things like that. For a lot of people, I think that can be quite troubling. I know it definitely took me a moment when she came home. I was like, oh God, is she okay? But it's just a side effect of the medication. And in all honesty, as awful as it is to like have to listen to her sit in front of the pantry and bark at it and demand biscuits, I'd rather have my dog sit and bark for some biscuits than not have my dog at all. And this is a medication that she may have to take for the rest of her life. It's very hard to tell. As I said, it's up to like the lab results and the vet. If she gets really good results, they might start weaning her off it. Then there's always the chance that she can relapse and we have to go back up in the medication again. It is an expensive like disease in dogs, which is why majority, so if you ever have a dog that's diagnosed with it and you start Googling things, don't get scared. Out of like, I can't remember the exact percentages, but they say 20% of cases are fatal. Of that 20%, 15% of them are because people can't afford the treatment. So only 5% of that is from something that actually happens to the dog. And I think that's a very important thing to know. I know Mum and I were Googling things like crazy. We wanted to know everything that was going on. We wanted to make sure she was going to be okay. And reading a lot of those things can scare you. But you need to take into account your dog's history of health. We don't have her genetic history. She was bought from a pet store and she's like mixed breed. We don't know her parents. But if you know your dog's genetic history, take that into account. Their breed can also have something to do with it. I've read that it's more common in like Cavaliers, Maltese, Shih Tzus, a lot of like the small like toy dogs, so like toy poodles, Pomeranians, Yorkies, things like that. It's more common in them, but that doesn't mean that other dogs can't get it. When you read a lot of case studies, there's a lot of Staffies, there's a few Great Danes, things like that. So it can happen to any dog at any time. There's been dogs that are like 4 months old, there's been dogs that are 9 years old, Zoe's 3. So it can pop up anywhere and any time. You just need to know the signs to look for, which is like signs of anemia, lethargy, jaundice, or just like really pale. She wasn't jaundiced when we took her in. She was quite pale. When it was near the end of her treatment, she was a little bit jaundiced, but I think from memory one of the vet interns said that was from her blood transfusion, because it was the body basically reacting to it. Because jaundice is just kind of like when there's an abundance of bilirubin. Ooh, science lesson. An abundance of like the breakdown products of red blood cells. So like when you get a bruise and like you get like the yellowing and stuff, it's an overabundance of that, basically just the body struggling with it. So that was why she had that. But if your dog has that, especially in like the whites of their eyes, that's definitely a sign. Know your animals, know their behaviors, know what they do, what they like, what is typical for them. With my rats, I know that every time I clean the cage, Drasani gets a bit sneezy. Doesn't mean she's sick, she does it every time I clean the cage. I would have her on medication and I would clean the cage and she would still sneeze just as much as she did prior to medication. I cleaned the cage the other night, I put her in, sneezes straight away. Knowing your animal's actions and their behaviors and everything like that is really important, because as soon as you pick up that something is off, go and get it checked, provided you can afford it. I don't know how vets are for everyone. I know that it costs us like a consultation fee every time we go, but if you can afford it, definitely get it checked, especially if it's something that highly concerns you. I don't like to think about what could have happened if we just let this slide with her, and it's a very scary thing. Thankfully we caught it, we got her the help she needed, and I've got my puppy, and I wouldn't ask for anything like more really. I'm glad that she's home and she's safe and she's on the path to recovery. And fingers crossed that when we go to the vet next week, he says her lab results are fantastic and we can start lessening one of her medications. Are you coming here? Yeah, nah, she's not coming.